everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Anne and this is In Search of Wonder, and today I have prepared for you my February pile of possibilities. So I am batch filming today because it is a Saturday morning that I don't have anything else going on, and I am neglecting my to-do list of housework in favor of getting all these videos done because I'm not seeing my way to doing them next week. The schedule that I have, things that are going on and the times that they're going on. So anyways, so they're like 3 videos of me in a row looking like this. So that's okay. It doesn't matter. So anyways, today I am bringing you my February TBR, which is really a pile of possibilities because there's no way I'm going to read all of these things in February. Although next week my January review of everything I read in January will be coming out, and I read a stinking lot of books in January, which never happens. And there are possibilities of snow days coming up in February, so maybe I'll get to more of these than I think, but we'll see. We'll see. Right now, I'm just going to share all of the things that I will be choosing from to read this month. So first of all, the most important thing is FebRegency. FebRegency was the first booktube readathon or whatever that I participated in as a subscriber, as a YouTube consumer, and I love it. I love all things Regency because I love Jane Austen, and that was so fun. So this year I am excited to participate in it again as a subscriber, but also as a booktuber myself, and tell you all about all the wonderful things that I will be reading and doing for FebRegency. FebRegency is hosted by Emma the Bookish Princess, Christy at Dostoevsky and Space, and Mrs. Richards Reads, and Tristan in the Classics. And so I will link to all of them below, and you can check out their videos and their suggestions for FebRegency and what they will be reading. I hope that you will join in because it's so fun. I love this era of history in England. So there are 4 different prompts. They are doing a group read, I think, but honestly, right this second, I forget what it is. Oops. I wasn't really planning on doing that necessarily, although I remember it interested me, and I can't remember now why I opted not to. But anyways, each of the hosts for FebRegency has a different prompt of different types of books or things that you can do to celebrate FebRegency. And Tristan in the Classics, his is fun. His is to participate in a Regency pastime. For myself, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to write some letters, which, you know, in this day of email and texting and phone calling, writing letters is a bit of a lost art, but that was a primary means of communication in Regency England, and the mail system was really good in Regency England, according to my understanding. Mail coaches being held up, notwithstanding. So, I am going to write letters. I may or may not get to any other Regency pastimes, any other things like, you know, learning different types of card games that were popular then, or making certain, you know, Regency era recipes, etc., that sort of thing. But for me, I think I'm going to do letter writing. That's my goal, to write some letters this month. And then Christy at Dostoevsky in Space, her prompt was to read a historical Regency novel. So I believe a novel set in Regency times, but not necessarily written in Regency times. And there is one, I love Regency era novels, anything set in there. And that's one thing that I love to read for like a palate cleanser in between, you know, like some people read cozy mysteries. I read Regency novels. I really love that era. I have so many that I could choose from, and I may read more than one, but one in particular I have seen several booktubers mention recently, and that is Miss Newbury's List. So it just sounded really interesting, like a fun story, a fun storyline, not like your usual plot line. So, and everybody was raving about how really good it was. It's by Megan Walker. I think it's from the proper romance collection. So anyways, I am looking forward to reading that one. I have that on Hoopla through my library. I think it may also be on Kindle Unlimited, I'm not sure. But either way, I have access to that one. So I'm definitely going to be reading that one, and I may read some others. Like I'm always up for a good Georgette Hare novel. And then there's some others that I have on my shelf that I might dip into, time permitting. Then Miss Richards reads. She has a prompt to read a new to me Regency author. And so I have several ones for this that I don't know. I'm probably going to choose one of them as a mood read. I don't think I will get to more than one of them. And I'm honestly am struggling to decide. So if any of you have read one or all three of them, let me know what you think that I would like best. The Vicar of Wakefield is one by Oliver Goldsmith, which has been on my radar, and I kind of want to read that one. That one sounds very interesting to me, and I can get that on Project Gutenberg. Another one that has been on my radar for a long time is, I forget the full title, it's a longer title, but it's Tristram Shandy is in the name there, by Laurence. And that was actually written pre-Regency era, but it was very popular in the Regency era. The reason it caught my eye is because, as I've mentioned multiple times on this channel, my family and I, we love to go to Williamsburg. And in colonial Williamsburg, that was a popular book at the time. So, because it was written in the late 1700s, I think, just prior to the Regency era. And so in colonial Williamsburg, that was a popular book that people were reading. And so there are mentions of it or whatever. So it caught my eye many years ago when I was there. And I was like, oh, that sounds like, a fun book. I kind of wanted to read that one. So that has been for a long time on my radar as a book I want to read eventually. So this would be a good reason for me to pick it up and read it. So there's that one. And then the other one, which I wasn't going to, because, so Tristan in the Classics has a great video with recommendations for Regency authors that are not Jane Austen or others that you might have heard of. Unusual, lesser known authors. And this was one of them, The Wild Irish Girl by Lady Morgan, I think. When he was talking about it, it didn't super interest me, but then Emma at the Bookish Princess was talking about it. And the way she described the story sounded much, much more interesting to me. So I'm a little bit torn about this one because I kind of want to read it. But then Dia was telling me that there's a lot of politics, like Irish national politics in it, which books that have like isolated regional political elements in them are less universally appreciated. And so not as much my favorite, because honestly, as an outsider, not anybody Irish or with an Irish background or whatever, and not having a personal emotional investment in what was happening then in that time, it's a little bit harder to get emotionally invested in the story, if that makes sense. Anyway, so that's a little bit, I don't know, but at the same time, it seemed like it'd be a really interesting story, politics aside, and definitely worth reading. So, I don't know, what do you think? If you have read any of those three and you think I would like or not like, let me know, and that will help me decide. I can get all three of them on Project Gutenberg. Emma from the Bookish Princess, her prompt was to read something involving naval travel or travel by sea, because that was a big deal in the Regency era, because of course, like the Napoleonic Wars and all of this stuff. And like Jane Austen, her multiple brothers of hers were sea captains, or they were in the Navy, they served in the Navy. And Persuasion, the hero in this story, is a captain of a ship. Anyway, so it does play a huge role in that time of history. So for that one, and I actually have a physical copy of this one, I want to read Master and Commander by Patrick O'Brian, which I've never read, mostly because, honestly, naval stories don't interest me. And I don't know why. It just doesn't appeal to me. Something about being on the sea and ships and sailing, and I don't know. Doesn't interest me. I prefer landlocked stories, usually. But Patrick O'Brian was apparently heavily influenced by Jane Austen, so that's another reason to read it for FebRegency. And I think it's set in Regency times, but it's definitely about naval travel and travel by sea. I mean, obviously, right? So I don't know too much about it other than that. I know this is the first in a series. So if it's interesting, I will continue with the series. So that will be my choice for Emma's prompt. And that is the main things that I'll be reading for FebRegency. I may throw some other stuff in there, time permitting, but those are my main goals for FebRegency. Then for the Tea and Ink Society yearly challenge of reading classics, I love this challenge because each month is a prompt of a different type of classic. And she always includes translated works in there, which is good because that gives me a reason to specifically seek out a translated work of some kind, and not that I don't read translated works otherwise, but just it gives me like a reason to purposely seek out one that I may not otherwise. So the prompt for this month is a Nordic or Scandinavian book. And they're supposed to be classics. Her rule is they are supposed to be written before 1972. I'm fudging a little bit with this one, but I have good reasons, and I think that it will work. So I'm not ashamed of this choice at all. I think it's a perfectly valid choice. Okay. Anyways, here's the thing. So I know you don't know by looking at me. It's kind of hard to tell. I am actually Scandinavian by heritage, not by, geographic location or citizenry or anything like that. Heritage, background, bloodline, DNA. My mother is 100% Finnish, although she is, I think, third generation American. Her grandparents immigrated to the States, to Michigan from Finland, and settled in a Finnish community in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and married within that Finnish community. So my mom is fully Finn. And so I am at least 50% Finn. I also have Scandinavian on my dad's side. There's some Swedish there, and there's some more Finn there, and then some Germanic kind of things in there. So I'm mostly Scandinavian. My brother did a DNA test, and it was determined that his conclusion was we're basically Vikings. And my mother took umbrage at that, and she is like, we were not Vikings. We are not the Scandinavians that we were Vikings. We were different Scandinavians. We were not the Vikings. So there you have it. I'm not a Viking, but I am a Scandinavian. So anyways, I know with my coloring, etc., one does not look at me and say Scandinavian because I am pretty much as far removed from pale, blonde-haired, and blue-eyed. Maybe not quite as far as removed as you can get, but pretty far. Brown hair, brown eyes, olivish, slightly olivish tinted skin, definitely not like pale, clear skin. And that is because we are, as my mom would like to say, true Finns, from more like Laplanders from the northern region of Finland where the ethnic Finns are. So that is my heritage, my DNA, my background. And it mostly presents itself in my coffee drinking habits because if you didn't know this, Finns drink more coffee per capita than any other country in the world. A couple of the other Scandinavian countries come kind of close to them, but they still blow everybody out of the water in their coffee drinking habits. So it's in my DNA. I can't help it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Anyway, so I jumped at the chance to read a Finnish novel. The problem is, Finnish classics are not widely available in English and in English translations. And I was looking up, because I don't know much about them other than the obvious, like the Moomin series, whatever. I didn't know much other Finnish literature and classics. And so I found some great lists, and I was like, oh, that one sounds like a good one, or that one sounds like a good one. And then I look at it, and most of them are not currently in print in English. And so you have to buy used copies, and they're very expensive, like $50 or whatever. And heritage notwithstanding, just not really feeling like spending that much money on a book right now. So I had to settle for what was easily and readily available to me. And I came down with two options, and this is where the fudging comes in. So the first one is the Kalevala. I listened to the pronunciation of it on the all-knowing Google. And the Swedish and Finnish people, I think they were saying it like Kalevala. It seemed like it had a double accent. Kalevala, I think. Anyway, it's like their mythology. So I guess that counts as a classic, right? It's the Finnish myths, you know, starting with their myth of the creation of the world to everything. It's just like a collection of myths. And I think it may have been edited by a Finnish person at some point, like collected, kind of like, you know, Brothers Grimm's or, you know, the different people who have collected Greek mythology and written it out, whatever. Anyway, so that is one option, and I can get that through the library. I think it may also be on Project Gutenberg. The other one that I'm really very interested in, and is definitely a bit of a fudge, is The Summer Book by Tove Janssen. And it sounds like an absolutely delightful book. Perhaps not the most appropriate book to read in February. It feels like it definitely has a seasonal quality of summer about it in the descriptions I've read. But I have heard people talk about this one. It sounds delightful to me. It sounds like something that I would really enjoy, just very atmospheric, and a lovely story set in I think in an island off of Finland, I think, if I'm not mistaken. The problem is, well, first of all, it was originally written in Swedish, which is not a problem for the challenge. It's just I wanted to read something that was Finnish, but the author is Finnish. And there's history there with Finland and Scandinavian and Sweden. Like, there's history there. We don't talk about it, but anyways, there's a history. So she wrote it in Swedish originally, but she was Finn herself, and so that's the fudge for me, for my personal whatever. But since she was Finnish, I figure it counts. Secondly, the rules are the classics should have been written before 1970. That was just the more or less arbitrary way that the Elsie who made this challenge decided just to determine what's a classic and what's not. The Summer Book was written in and published in 1972. 2 years off. But it's also readily available at my library. I can get the audiobook version through Hoopla, or I also put a hold on an actual physical copy, which I'm really hoping to get. I think there's one other person before me. So I'm hoping to get that and read an actual physical copy because I would prefer that. But anyways, I have access to that book. So those are the reasons why I settled with those for that challenge. And that was a lot of talking about that. So moving on. The other group that I participate in, the other challenge I do, is the What the Dickens Facebook book club. And they often choose poetry in February. And the poem for this month is a very short poem, which I've read before, but I will enjoy reading again. And I will probably try to read some more of his poetry. And that is The Red Red Rose by Robert Burns. And so I'm looking forward to that. And that will be an easy one to check off my list. I think there is something about Robert. I don't know if like his birth date, like he was born in February or maybe he died in February. I think that there's something about February being associated with Robert Burns. So there's probably some other stuff that I will look into about that, since the poem itself is short. So there's not a lot there, but I will read some more by him and maybe read a little bit about him and read up on his life, etc. Because I don't really know much about him other than he was from Scotland. So. And then for the Read Your Shelf Challenge by Chantal Reads All Day, I am on the Doyle track currently. And I read Hound of the Baskervilles in January. And then for February on that track, you are supposed to read a book that is less than 250 pages. And I actually had a bit of a hard time finding books on my shelf that were less than 250 pages. And most of them are nonfiction, actually. So I have to choose from these. So we're going to do this like right here, right now. So exciting, right? That's my third cup of coffee today, by the way. I know it's 12 o'clock. Finish. I'm finished. Just remember. Where's my stack? Here's my stack. Okay, so I have 5 books that are less than 250 pages. So first of all, this one that I got in my, I think it was a Christian book order. It was on clearance. It's from a series, but I feel like each of the books can be standalone because they're just connected thematically by the fact that they are novels about true crime that happened historically, true historic crime. And this one is about a crime that happened in Chicago at the Chicago World's Fair in 1893. And Grace Hitchcock is an author that I have kind of been wanting to try, that I've heard, you know, people say they really enjoyed her books. So I want to try that. I do like, not love, but I like true crime stories, and historic even better. So I'm very interested in reading this one, and it is 245 pages. So perfectly fits just under that. So that is option number 1. Option number 2 is one that I had on my TBR for January, but didn't actually get to. And it's very short. Sound Worship, A Guide to Making Musical Choices in a Noisy World. And this one is page 124. So this is a topic of great interest to me, and it's not a very long book. And yeah, I do want to read it. So that is option number 2. Option number 3 is, I picked this up also on clearance, Christian book or something, maybe a year or 2 ago, but I haven't read it yet. In the Thick of It, Raising Sons to be Men of Unyielding Conviction in a Culture of Confusion by Jason Cruz. And I don't hear a lot of people talking about this. I don't know if it's any good, but the title caught my eye because I have 2 boys. So that is option number 3, and it is 155 pages. So also not very long. Then I picked this up at a thrift store recently in my thrift store bingo video. I came across this book, and I have heard quite a few people talking about this one. Dane Ortlund's Gentle and Lowly, The Heart of Christ for Sinners and Sufferers. And that one comes in at, well, including the epilogue, 216 pages. So definitely falls under the 250 page category, and is a book that I definitely want to read. So that is option number 4. And option number 5, I bought on the same thrift store shopping trip, which is When Strivings Cease. I just love a beautiful copy of this book. If nothing else, it's just lovely. Absolutely beautiful. And I also like the sound of the book, and what I can see of the format of the books. I can see this, it just looks very readable and approachable, about when striving cease, replacing the gospel of self-improvement with the gospel of life-transforming grace. And I think that all of us can use a little bit of that on a regular basis in our lives. So I'm very interested in reading that. And I've heard a lot of good things about it. And the page count for that one is 228. So those are 5 books that I want to read eventually. But will I read them in February? I'm going to open up my computer and pull up a number generator and see if we can choose one of these to read. So I only have 5, so pick a number from 1, 2, 5, and generate. And that is number 4. You can see that, number 4. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4. That is Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortlund. So I will add that to my to read stack for January. February. And I will set these here. I will get to those eventually, one day. Now, the next thing I have planned for February is a couple of buddy reads that I am very excited about. So, Tales and Treats with Tay. She had an anniversary celebration and giveaway recently, which I won, and I was very excited about. And the prize was, she bought this for me from my Amazon wish list, The Letter Tree by Rachel Fordham, which a lot of booktubers were talking about this one. It was making the rounds in late last year after it was released, and it intrigued me. I think I've read one book by Rachel Fordham previously. Yeah, I guess I haven't read anything by her. These title listed don't, I recognize most of them as having seen them and heard people talking about them and thinking, oh, I would like to read that, but never actually read them. Where the Road Bends, A Lady in Attendance, A Life Once Strange, The Hope of Azure Springs, and Yours Truly, Thomas. So this is kind of like a You've Got Mail meets Romeo and Juliet, maybe kind of story. And seems like it will be a fun read, and I am looking forward to reading that with Tay from Tales and Treats with Tay. And then my other buddy read is with Miriam over at Miriam Reads, and we are going to read The Lily of Ludgate Hill. Both of us are Mimi Matthews fans, and this is her latest release and the third in her Bells of London series. And I am looking forward to it. I read, there was like a sample chapter in the back of the previous book in the series, and it just seemed like just the way that it was written, the banter between the two characters seemed like it would be a really fun read, and everything that is the best about Mimi Matthews and her writing. So I'm looking forward to that. I have enjoyed this series that she has writing, with a few caveats. I haven't like fully 100% 5-star loved each book, but I have enjoyed the series that she's writing. I do overall really like Mimi Matthews' writing, and I love her stories and her characters, and there's a lot to love about almost every book that she writes. But this is her latest release, and I'm looking forward to reading that with Miriam in the month of February as a buddy read. And then finally, I have one other book that I'm hoping to get to. I'm borrowing it from the library, and that is Baron and Luthien, which I had never heard of before, but that is the book that was chosen for Protagonist Book Club, for Protagonist Pub's Book Club, and which she is doing on Discord this month. Last month we read Veiled in Smoke by Jocelyn Green, and this time we're reading by J.R. Tolkien, Baron and Luthien, which is supposed to be, I'm not exactly sure. It's like kind of like about his and his wife's love story, and like a love letter to his wife, but it's also like a mythological story, I think, in verse form. Not exactly sure. I've never read anything else like by Tolkien, an entire book. I started reading the Silmarillion because it was referenced in a lecture that I attended, and it really intrigued me, and I read the first few chapters of it, or the first chapter or two, and I really enjoyed it. I loved it, but I didn't get past that. I didn't read anything more than that. So I've never really read anything by Tolkien, and mostly because fantasy is just not my go-to genre. But I know that it's on my eventual list of things that I will get to in my lifetime, I hope, at some point. But apparently I'm going to start with his more obscure work, and I'm hoping to get to it in February. Aside from that, I will just be doing some mood reading. The Divine Proverb of Streusel, I am hoping to get to. By the time this video goes live, I may have already started it. I don't know. But I pre-ordered this one and got it in January, and really looking forward to reading it. I loved Sarah Brunsfeld's first book, The Extraordinary Deaths of Mrs. Kipp, and I have heard so many fantastic things about this one. I'm really looking forward to reading it, and excited about that. So that is more than likely going to show up as a mood read in the month of February, if not already. And then in the month of January, I had a whole stack, and it's still right here, of mood reads that options for me to get to, both nonfiction and fiction. The only one that I actually picked up out of this stack was a nonfiction one, and The Dead Shall Rise by Steve Oney. And I am reading that one currently, and I'm working. It's a big chunker, so it's going to take me a while. It's not going to be finished anytime soon. I'll be reading it probably through most of the month of February. But I'm still keeping these ones here as options if I want another mood read, something to try. Keeper of Lost Things, Ragtime, Gilead, The Midnight Library. Those are the fiction options that I will keep there handy to pick from. And nonfiction options, Sixth Grade Ideas by Mortimer Adler and Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance, which someone referenced recently in something that I was listening to, maybe a sermon or a talk or something, I don't know. Anyways, they referenced something that this was mentioned in this book, and it was interesting. So what was it about? I think it had something to do with education, because I think it was in the context of education. I don't remember. Anyways, I am interested in reading this one. All of these books, like, I really want to read them, but, you know, I can't sit around and read all day, unfortunately. Like, right now, I need to go get started on my to-do list for the day and stop filming videos and talking about books. And, yeah. So, anyway, that's the month of February. Also, in the month of February, we have Valentine's Day, of course. And we have, not of course, because you probably don't know this, but my husband's and my anniversary is in the latter end of February. So, very appropriate month for reading some romance novels. So, I may or may not choose something like that for a mood read during the course of the month. We don't have any big plans for our anniversary. We'll probably just, you know, have a nice dinner out somewhere. I don't even know if there are any like movies out there we want to watch or whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to do too much this year. Some years we take a trip or plan a special outing or whatever, but I think we'll just have a nice date night, I think is what we'll do. So anyways, that is my month of February. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you have any thoughts, if any of these you have recommendations of ones that I'm deciding between, and if you have any thoughts about any of the books on my list, and also what you are planning to read in the month of February. Are you participating in FebRegency? Let me know. And I will talk to you